Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. Rethink the lockdown measures, what the Manufacturers Association is asking the government to do. Not necessary. Health Minister responds to concerns of COVID test before vaccination. And later in sports, Jamaica's Rugby Sevens team invited to Tier 1 competition for the first time. I'm Giovanni Dennis and here are the details. Calls this afternoon for the government to rethink the COVID-19 lockdown measures to prevent further fallout in the business sector. The Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association says the current COVID-19 containment measures are wreaking havoc on businesses, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises. Sandy Williams reports.
Small and medium-sized businesses have been significantly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. And since the implementation of no movement days 4 weeks ago, coupled with the nightly curfews, growing frustration in the business community. President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, John Mahfood, says the current measures are bad for business. It's why he's appealing to the government to rethink them. The current measures allow businesses to operate 3.5 days per week, as they are forced to close at 12 midday on Fridays.
We don't believe that it has had the significant impact on bringing down the rate of infections. I think, the very narrow window for people to shop of 3.5 days, but 3.5 days when a lot of people are or working is not the best solution. We don't think that a Friday half-day closure is the best solution. And so it has to be rethought, because part of what we think is happening is that the condensing of the number of working hours is also causing problems in terms of congestion in supermarkets, congestion in public transport.
Executive Director at the Tourism Enhancement Fund, Dr. Kerry Wallace, agrees, adding that large businesses are also feeling the pinch from the measures.
When you had the CDC and the UK ratings change with respect to Jamaica's safety levels, charter flights were stopped right away, bookings were cancelled and so on. So a lot of persons were affected adversely because of that imbalance that was caused in the last month or so.
However, Dr. Wallace says a balance between lives and livelihoods is critical in keeping the country afloat.
Government therefore has to keep certain industries open, at least at minimum, to earn enough to pay the staff to make sure they can keep people alive. So it really is a balance that is needed. It can't just be one, lock on the whole country and cut off the borders. And, we have to really be sensible and think of the balance that we have to have. Otherwise, we get into further chaos.
Mr. Mahfood and Dr. Wallace were speaking on Power 106's morning agenda on Monday morning. Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
TVJ News has been informed that one of the nurses who died from COVID-19 at the weekend recently gave birth. Sudeen Linfat, who was a mental health officer in St. Elizabeth, was the mother of a 3-week-old baby. Ms. Linfat died on Friday. The other nurse, Donette Gray Morris, was the ward manager at the Cornwall Regional Hospital. Representatives from the Nurses Association of Jamaica will visit the hospital today to meet with the nursing staff. The association is scheduled to meet with mental health officers on Thursday. Several nurses have died of the coronavirus in recent months. There has been a slight decrease in COVID-19 hospitalizations over the past 24 hours. 753 people were admitted with the respiratory virus on Sunday, down from the 773 on Saturday. 52 are critically ill, while 117 are severely ill. 24,460 active cases of the virus are on the island. In the meantime, 594 new cases were recorded from 2,136 tests. The total case count is now 76,451. The positivity rate is now 36.2%. The coronavirus also claimed 3 more lives in Jamaica, pushing the death toll to 1,734. The deaths were recorded between September 10 and 11. The Ministry of Health is again insisting that you do not have to do a COVID-19 test before taking the vaccine. The ministry says this is based on guidance from the World Health Organization. Shamala Pullen reports.
Some persons want to know if they need to do a COVID-19 test before taking the COVID-19 vaccine. Chief Medical Officer in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Jacqueline Visesa Mackenzie, says it's a concern that has been raised with the ministry quite often. As a result, some persons do not want to take the jab.
The WHO recommendation is that a test is not required before being vaccinated. Clinical trial results have shown that people with previous COVID-19 infections can be vaccinated safely. The COVID-19 infection cannot be improved or treated by the vaccine. So a person with an unknown status at taking the vaccine does not turn out to end up having a worse case of COVID if they have COVID, or the vaccine does not cause them to have COVID.
As such, the CMO says there is no need for pre-testing. However,
we are advising persons that if you have been exposed to anyone with COVID-19 before being vaccinated and you have COVID-like symptoms or has tested positive for infection, then they should wait to be vaccinated until they have recovered from the acute illness and that they meet the criteria to stop isolation, and which for us, they have to be in isolation for 14 days. And so, therefore, they must complete their isolation period before they go and get their vaccine.
She also said there is no evidence locally to say the vaccine has caused harm.
There is nothing to say that a person with unknown status, and that is a well person, turns out to have a worse case of COVID or to be affected by the vaccine because they could have had COVID, or that they end up with any severe illness or anything like that.
Shamala Pullen, TVJ News.
More than 4,000 students received their first dose of the Pfizer vaccine in St. Catherine last week. That report from the parish's health department at the latest St. Catherine Municipal Corporation meeting. Sandy Williams reports.
Efforts continue to ramp up inoculation among students ahead of the expected start of face-to-face classes for high school students come October. And in St. Catherine, the take-up thus far has been good. The Ministry of Health has given priority to children 12 years and older for inoculation with the Pfizer vaccine. Speaking at the latest St. Catherine Municipal Corporation meeting, Chief Public Health Inspector for the parish, Grayson Hutchinson, said approximately 4,958 students between ages 12 and 18 years have received their first dose of the jab.
The breakdown of school children receiving the vaccine is as follows. Age 12 years, number vaccinated, 670. 13 years, number vaccinated, 695. 14 years, number vaccinated, 836.
Most of the students inoculated are 15 years old, with a total of 975 receiving the jab in the parish.
16 years, number vaccinated, 849. 17 years, number vaccinated, 579. 18 years, number vaccinated, 353.
Mr. Hutchinson is hoping more students will get inoculated as several vaccination drives are scheduled for the parish this week.
St. Jago High, September 14. Inwood High, September 15. GC Foster, September 16. And St. Catherine High, September 17.
Meanwhile, Mr. Hutchinson should have been transferred from St. Catherine to the Kingston and St. Andrew Health Department. However, the process has been delayed. Sandy Williams, TVJ News.
And it's now time for a break here on the Midday News, but please stay with us. We'll have much more when we return. Welcome back. We're continuing the news. There was an emotional moment at the start of the latest St. Catherine Municipal Corporation meeting. Mayor of Spanish Town Norman Scott was reading the chairman's opening statements when he was shown a video which apparently led him to tears. O'Shane Masters reports.
A mayor overcome with grief as he listens to a husband recounting the death of his wife due to the shortage of oxygen across the island at the end of August.
I feel like a fish out of water. I feel like the whole system had failed. I think that if there was the high flow, the oxygen was there, at least, I believe that it would give her a better fighting chance. I feel a sense of emptiness, a sense of hopelessness. When she asks me that, baby, when the bulk oxygen is going to come, when it's going to come.
The Spanish Town Mayor Norman Scott could not be controlled and had to be taken out of the meeting. But that was what sent the rest of the meeting into a tailspin, as some councillors were not moved by the mayor's emotions.
The Western his baby mother died at KPH, and I was telling person that she died from COVID. And he called me and said, "Councillor, don't tell anybody that my baby mother died from COVID. She died from the lack of oxygen. She's asthmatic. They turned off the oxygen on her." Those were his words to me.
However, the deputy mayor was not having it.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Can you sit? Can you sit?
Since that time, the government and the sole medical supplier of oxygen, EightYearOld, has increased its medical oxygen supply to the island through new mergers, something that Councillor for the Guys Hill Division said should be praised.
We must give the government credit for having.
No, right.
Mr. Chairman.
That statement then led to chants in the meeting.
Councillor Harris, can you sit? Can you sit? Can you sit? Can you sit?
The opposition has been calling for a report to be done on the number of deaths which occurred due to the oxygen shortage at the end of August. O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
A husband and wife are among 3 persons arrested by the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency MOCA last Tuesday on fraud charges. It's understood that Michael Anthony Tyrrell and his wife Anna Kay were arrested at home on Tuesday, September 7, and a third person, Tasha Buckner, later that same day. The trio along with others have been accused of defrauding the Heart NSTA Trust of over $8 million. According to MOCA, a total of 33 irregular payments were uncovered during an audit of the payroll department at the Heart for the 2018 period. The payments were processed for fake part-time employees after Heart's payroll system was illegally manipulated. MOCA says the 3 persons are alleged to have actively recruited individuals whose accounts were utilized to steal the monies. The Tyrrells have both been charged with larceny as a servant, conspiracy to defraud, and money laundering, while Buckner was charged with receiving stolen property and conspiracy to defraud. All 3 are to appear in the St. Andrew Parish Court on September 24. A family is seeking the assistance of the public to locate 80-year-old Oscar Crammer, who went missing on Friday, September 3. It's understood that the man suffers from Alzheimer's and was last seen in the New Bowen district in Clarendon. At the time he went missing, he was wearing an orange shirt with black shorts with white strips to the side and a pair of black Nike slipper. He's approximately 5 feet 4 inches tall. If anyone has seen or knows his whereabouts, they are being asked to contact the Maypen Police Station at 876-986-2208. The Radio Jamaica News Centre will begin releasing the findings of the RJR Dunn Anderson polls today. The The poll sought to test public opinion on several issues, including measures designed to combat the COVID-19 pandemic, the government's handling of the crisis, and whether taking the COVID-19 vaccine should be mandatory. We will also look at the political issues, including the overall performance of the government and the opposition and the party standings. This evening, we will be looking at how members of the public rate the government's handling of the pandemic and their views on the weekend lockdowns. Field work for the poll was conducted in late August, and a sample of over 1,000 people taken from different communities across the island. TVJ News will commence the release of the polls at 7 o'clock this evening in Primetime News. And for the latest in the financial world, here's Cody Barrett.
In business news, Indies former Jamaica recorded a decline in profits for the third quarter of 2021. It posted net profits of $43 million compared to $49 million for the corresponding period in 2020, a 14% decrease despite the quarterly deduction of the finance cost to serve the $805 million bond. According to the company, the lower net profit is primarily attributed to the finance cost associated with a loan acquired for growth capital, the company's strategic investment for long-term value. Revenues, however, saw an increase of 26%, with $208 million over the $165 million recorded in the third quarter of 2020. Barita Investments has made an addition to the prospectus for its additional public offering, as recommended by the Financial Services Commission, FSC. The company posted the addendum on the Jamaica Stock Exchange website on Friday. Barita is seeking $10 billion from the additional public offering, which opened on September 6 and is scheduled to close on September 21.
Now for the top regional and international stories, here's O'Shane Masters.
In the region, Haiti's chief public prosecutor has invited Prime Minister Ariel Henry to meet with him in the coming days as part of an ongoing investigation into the slaying of President Jovenel Moïse. The chief prosecutor, Bedford Claude, noted that Henry spoke with one of the main suspects in the case just hours after the killing. Mr. Claude says the meeting request is to verify the content of the conversations. More than 40 suspects have been arrested in the case, including 18 former Colombian soldiers who recently accused Haitian police of torture. Meanwhile, the U.S. Coast Guard intercepted a sailboat crowded with Haitian refugees off the South Florida coast on Sunday. According to the agency's Twitter account, there were approximately 80 Haitian migrants on board the crowded vessel. The refugees' attempt to emigrate to the U.S. comes after a massive earthquake a month ago and political turmoil, including the assassination of the island's president in July. And England is abandoning its plan for a vaccine passport system. The plan would have required guests at nightlife venues or crowded events to present proof of vaccination and negative COVID test or proof of the required self-isolation after a positive test. The UK's Health Secretary says the requirements are not needed right now because of the country's high vaccination rate, new treatments, and increased testing and surveillance. And that's it for the top regional and international stories. I'm O'Shane Masters.
And we now head to a quick break. When we come back, Simon Preston will have your Midday Sports report.
Welcome back. It's now time for Midday Sports. I'm Simon Preston. Jamaica will be the first Caribbean nation to feature in a Tier 1 rugby event after being invited to play in the World Rugby Sevens series later this month.
Over the last 4 years, the Crocs have qualified and played in the Rugby Sevens World Cup, the Commonwealth Games, the Pan American Games, and the World Rugby Sevens Challenger Series. In that time frame, they have gone from minnows of the Caribbean to now be rubbing shoulders with the best international teams on the planet. Captain of Jamaica's Rugby Sevens team, Conan Osborne, reacted to their invitation to the big dance.
The boys are super excited, and as soon as this opportunity came up, we had to grab it with both hands. So once again, it's a chance for us to show what we can do on the world stage, and for the first time, we'll be playing there completely with the big boys. So super excited. We've got a good squad. This year ahead of us is massive. So World Cup qualification, Commonwealth Games qualification. All of these tournaments are predicated by us having to have as much game time as possible.
Vice Captain O'Shane Eddy was lost for words.
To express it in words is hard, training all your life to become one of the best rugby players in the world. for me, it's just an immaculate feeling. It's awesome. What we need is more of these, to be on the World Series, to be playing against better teams, and that will make us better in the long run.
The first leg of the Sevens series is set to run this weekend in Vancouver, Canada. The Jamaicans are drawn in Group B alongside Great Britain, Ireland and Hong Kong.
Captain of the Jamaica Tallawahs, Rovman Powell, says countrymen Kenar Lewis, Kirk McKenzie and the South African Miguel Pretorius were the star performers of the franchise in the 2021 season of the CPL. The Tallawahs were eliminated from the competition after a 14-run loss to the Guyana Amazon Warriors at Warner Park on Sunday. This is the second time in CPL history that the Tallawahs have failed to finish in the top 4 of the table. Powell highlighted the positives from the season.
I think there's a lot of positive. The way Kenar bat right throughout the competition is very good. Also young Mackenzie. I think Mackenzie played well for his first season. And also Miguel. Miguel finished with about 15, 16 wickets. I think those are the bright sparks of our season.
The semi-finals are slated for Tuesday as the St. Lucia Kings battles the Trinbago Knight Riders, while the St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots entertains the Guyana Amazon Warriors.